Hello, my loyal subscribers and people that just randomly found my video. Hit the button! Hit the subscribe button! You know you want to. Oh, you want to see a cool trick? Put a cactus down like this, and put a bed next to it. Now you have half a bed, but you can still use it. Is that cool or what? Anyway, I don't know why that works. That'll probably be patched in the future. But I guess it saves space on beds, right? And it looks kind of cool, I suppose. But anyway, this is going to be episode 12, and we, in episode 11, looked at the new drowning trap and the flaming arrow cannon, which was very cool. So I thought we'd continue in a similar light and go and look at my recent redstone projects. I've been doing a lot with redstone in the last couple days. Probably the last 2 days I've gone through probably about a half chest worth of redstone dust. A lot of redstone. From that water to here, past all the way past those that flaming lava pillar and past those dirt blocks is all redstone stuff. So yeah, we're gonna look at a couple things today. Hopefully it won't be too long. But the first thing I thought I'd show you is my attempt to create a circuit that duplicates a T flip-flops action basically from scratch without looking at anything. I created this. That was my challenge to myself, to create a new circuit that does the same thing a T flip-flop does. And if you don't know what a T flip-flop does, or is rather, flip-flop is a type of memory cell. There are different types. You have the D, J, K, and the T flip-flops, as well as master-slave. There's a whole bunch of them. And they're basically a souped-up version of a latch, and they're used for circuit boards with computers. They're basically the same logic gates as that you find in your computer boards, basically that run the operation of everything. So and a T flip-flop, what that does is it's called the toggle usually. That's why it's called T. What it allows you to do is take a short input pulse, for instance a button, and create it and transform it into a constant stream of power. What does that mean? Well, the door's closed, right? Or the door's open, right? Now it's closed. Now it's open. Now it's closed. And generally when you hit a button next to a door, the door is going to open for a short period of time. But what this circuit here is doing is taking the short impulse from the button and transforming it into a longer constant impulse to toggle the door on and off. So this was my attempt at creating the flip-flop from scratch. It is huge, and it is completely unuseful. What's the word I'm looking for? Completely superfluous, because the flip-flop is much better to use and it's much tinier. But I just wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do it. So basically I had to spend a few minutes to try to figure out how the hell I did this, because I actually forgot. Basically I have a simple latch here set up that you've seen me use tons of times, and the first button push will set the latch to 1, which will open the door basically. And usually what I do with these doors is create the monostable circuit. Remember those? I love those, and you know I love those. I've done it a billion times. I'm going to keep talking, but we'll reset today in a minute. So the monostable circuit, what it usually does, or what it does rather, is resets the latch after a certain period of time. But I didn't want to do that in this case. I wanted to toggle the door permanently. So I had to come up with something new. I had to come up with a way to reset the latch only if certain conditions were met. So what I figured out that I could do was I could set the circuit to reset the latch only if the latch was set in, say, state 1 and the button was pressed at the same time, and that's how I accomplished it. I used this AND gate to do that. So say if this latch was set and this torch was on, it would come over here into these repeaters into the AND gate, and if the button was pressed at the same time, then it would reset the latch and toggle the door again. So But the hard part was making it a race. I had to make it so that when the latch was in its first state, the button current would arrive here first and dissipate before the other line of current came here. So in that way, this is only gonna trigger the AND gate when the latch is already set in its second state. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, but that's how I did it, and it took a long time. So moving on, don't want to confuse you any further. So here we have something else that I kind of invented. And let me step back and say why I came up with this in the first place. I was having trouble with the piston dock over there. The problem was the boats, when they hit the plates, they weren't exactly staying on the plate. They were bobbing up and down in the water, so they were turning the plate on, turning it off, turning it on, turning it off. So that was creating a big problem. And the way I originally solved that was using a rising edge triggered monostable circuit. Mouthful, I know. And as you can imagine, it was big, and it was simply too big, and the pressure plates were interfering with the pistons, and it was a whole mess. It was a complete mess. So I sort of ditched that idea, and I figured that the dock was not possible to get done the way I wanted it to. So I just left it there for a few days. And then I was reading on the wiki, and I came across something called an input stabilizing device, and I realized, holy crap, I could use that to do what I wanted. And what I wanted to do was take a short impulse, i.e. the 1 or 2 second impulse that you get from, say, a pressure plate or a button, and turn it into a constant pulse, I guess. I guess that would be an oxymoron, but a constant stream of power. In other words, when I step on this pressure plate, I wanted it to open a door or close a door or do something permanently instead of doing it for only a short amount of time. And as you can see, that's exactly what it does. It takes a short pulse and converts it into a pulse converts it into a permanent state, basically. A permanent pulse, or whatever the hell you want to call it. So that's cool. That's an input stabilizing circuit. It's very easy to build, actually. All you need is a loop of redstone with an output to whatever you want, and then you have a repeater facing back this way. So it actually so it goes through here, and it comes along this side, and then it comes back, and it forms an infinite feedback loop, basically. So this will never turn itself off until you break the wiring. And that's what that does. Unfortunately, there's no way to reset it unless you break the wiring, until I came up with this. Now, this is what they call a pulse extender. Now, a pulse extender lets me take the impulse from this pressure plate and convert it to a pulse of whatever length I want. So, for instance, I could have a button or a plate here, and I could hit it, and I could make the door open for, say, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever I wanted to. I could extend that 2 or 3 second pulse to a determined length that I want. And you're saying, hey, that sounds like the monostable circuit. Well, yeah, it pretty much is, except it uses it has two different uses. One, well, it has two big differences, basically. One, it uses a piston here that makes it much more compact. I cut out the latch entirely in this system. And number two, it also does something else, which I'm going to explain in a sec. Now, what's happening here is when I step on the plate, the current's going to come here, it's going to go into here, which you saw was the permanent, that created the permanent feedback loop, which kept the door open. But it also goes here into this set of repeaters, which delays it, then into the piston, which pushes the block over here and cuts off the circuit. So it's essentially the same thing I did by breaking the wiring. That's what the piston does, except it's sticky so it can pull it back. So I'll show you how this works. It takes this pulse and converts it into a pulse of determined length. And as you can see, that's how it does it. Very, very cool. Nice piece of work, even though I say so myself. And so that's how that thing works. Now there's one other use that I could use for this. Now let's say you have a circuit where you want a pulse to go through the circuit at a determined interval. Say, for instance, you have a door and you want to open that door every 30 seconds for the rest of time, or you have say I don't know, I'm trying to think of uses. You have a farm and you want to trigger pistons to knock off the sugarcane uh, every few minutes or something like that. Anything you can think of that where you want a circuit to activate at a predetermined interval permanently, basically. You can use this for, and that's basically called a pulse generator. It generates a pulse every so often, and it's actually a complete accident on my part. I didn't even mean to create it, but I did. So not only can this take a short input pulse and make it a longer pulse, it can take a constant pulse or a constant stream of power and make it into a shorter pulse. And that is really cool. Now, I do that with a lever. Generally speaking, when you press the lever, it creates a constant stream of electricity until you turn that lever off. Well, watch what happens when I do this. Yep. That lever is now converted into a series of pulses, and this circuit will continue indefinitely. So I have just created a pulse generator. That's why I call it a hybrid. It's actually a hybrid pulse extender and pulse generator. It's got a lot of different uses. I could have used this in my arrow cannon for the pressure plate to cut out the latch. But if you haven't seen that tutorial, I did it a little bit differently than the way I did it in the Let's Play episode. I used someone else's circuit that they came up with, a better monostable circuit that was more compact. So if you haven't seen that, you should check that out. It's really cool. But I might actually show you that a bit later. But this also would work. This would work fine. I would connect the pressure plate here, like you saw, and then have the monostable circuit into the piston. So very cool. This is I'm fairly proud of this. This is a really nice circuit. Now, creating that pulse extender really made me come back and give this boat dock project some new life, because nothing had worked really before. What I really needed to do was convert the short pulse of the pressure plate into a longer pulse to keep this piston door open so the boats would fall in the return mechanism. And I couldn't really figure out how to do that compactly and efficiently until I invented that pulse extender. So I applied that same concept to here, and this wiring is actually pretty impressive. The inputs are here. Pressure plate, there's two pressure plates, and they both have inputs right here. Okay, and then it flows in this way, and it goes through that same that input stabilizer circuit that I showed you. Here's the piston that cuts off the current. Okay, and here's the delay that goes to the piston around here. So it's the same thing I showed you earlier, with one difference. After the piston activates and cuts this off, we also have okay, so after this whole circuit cycles, it comes around, hits the piston, which cuts off this wiring. We also have this current going down here into these blocks, which are keeping these pistons extended. So it opens the door basically, and then it waits for everything to cycle back around and then close the door again. The trick was I didn't want the pistons to open when the pressure plate was pressed. I wanted there to be a delay between when the pressure plate was pressed and when the pistons opened, and I wanted there to be a delay for how long the piston stayed open. So that's how this is how I accomplished it, because when this is cut off by this piston, all these repeaters, they still have to cycle back through. They have to turn each of themselves off in series, basically, until they reach over here and go all the way down here. So that's a little bit difficult to visualize, I suppose. So let's take a look. Got a boat. I'm on a boat, motherfucker. Okay, and this boat's not working too well. Alright, so you come in here. Probably shouldn't have... Whoa. Oh, this boat's not cooperating. Stupid boat. Okay. So you're coming in here. Say la-di-da-da-da. Okay. Hit the pressure plate. Now I want to get out and go do my stuff. And I cannot believe that that just worked. Anyway, so that's exactly what's supposed to happen. You hit the pressure plate, you get out, you go do your thing, and the boat will automatically fall into the return system. You saw the delay between when the plates were clicked and when the door opened. Then you saw the delay when the door from when the door was opened to when it was closed. And then the boat falls down there. The problem I've been having several problems. That actually has never worked before. That is the first time it's ever worked, and I was shocked. Okay. Because most of the time, 95% of the time, the boat just sits here. It doesn't do anything. Even when the door's open, it just fucking sits here. It just sits there. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go. It doesn't fall down. And you can see, even though it fell down there, it didn't move. It's supposed to go to where that boat is, but it didn't move. It just sat there. And it just sits here. I have to push it to get it going. And then that boat just pushed it back. That's actually kind of cool. Wow, I might actually do something with that. But yeah, so and the problem is with how the boats are aligned, because it has to be going straight. It has to be aligned straight, essentially, in order for it to fall into something or for it to move. And I just can't get the damn things aligned properly. Not with 100% efficiency. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I could get it working half the time, but that's simply just not good enough. And it's really a shame because this is a beautiful circuit. I'm really proud of it. But it just, I mean, the circuitry is perfect. The concept is great, but the boats just aren't cooperating. You know, it's the boat's fault, basically. It's not my fault. If that makes sense. So I don't know how to get this working. Ah, crap, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know how to get this working. Maybe one of you guys has an idea. But, well, okay. And I just crashed that boat. Cool. I do know how to get it working, but it would require a complete redesign of the dock. It would basically be like E12's Eats Road. And that would be a real pain. And I don't know how to... I wouldn't know how to manually steer the boat into a road like that. So, I don't know. This project's on hold till I come up with something better. Okay, so to wrap up the episode, you can see my new version of the flaming arrow cannon, which you'll see in the tutorial. Check that out. You can see it's much smaller. And this is a T flip-flop. Remember that circuit that I showed you at the beginning of this video? How huge it was? Look at how tiny this is, and it does the exact same thing. If you want a tutorial to build this, you just go to YouTube and type, well, you're already at YouTube, aren't you? Type in the search T flip-flop tutorial, and you'll find a billion of them. It's really quite compact, though it's still very complicated. Anyway, so what I want to do before I sign off is teach you how to build a very compact latch, an RS NOR latch. And this is the design that Krasina made. And an RS NOR latch is a 1-bit memory cell. And we have 2 blocks like this, 1 block up. Put a torch on the end of this block, and put a block above that torch. Now, I use sand, so I had to put that torch there first. And then we put another torch. You can put it on this side of the block, or on this side of the block. I'll put it here just to make it less confusing. Okay. Now we have redstone dust here, and redstone dust here. And that is a latch, believe it or not. Doesn't seem like it would make that much sense, but it is a latch. And now you have the inputs to the latch. You could have it here, I guess. Put a button on here. Okay, good. That didn't do anything because it's already set. And the second input could be here. As you can see, that sets it in one state, and that sets the other state. So that's your latch design. And it's nice because it's adaptable, because you don't have to have the inputs here. You could put it on the other side and do that. Whoa. Oh wow, that was funny. Apparently I updated the block and the sand fell through. But like I was saying, you could put it on either side you want. You can run the outputs all over the place. So it's a really nice latch design, very adaptable. If you want to see one working, and this is a variable timing unit that I've been working on. It pretty much works actually. It's very huge though, so I'm going to try to make it smaller somehow. But it does work. It lets me select how much delay I want in my circuit, so I could, select, say, the range for my TNT cannon for one with this. Pretty cool. But this is that same latch. As you can see, we have one output connected here, and the other here. So very cool, very useful. And that's about all I wanted to show you this time. We did a lot of redstone in the last 2 episodes, so next episode I promise is going to be about the mob system, that passive mob system you see right there. So I want to give a little bit for each type of person. Some people like redstone, some people like to kill mobs, that kind of stuff. This is my attempt at putting sheep and cows in minecarts, which is not working too well right now, but I'll work on that. So next episode, I promise we'll get to the passive mob system. And until then, bye-bye. Check out the tutorial if you haven't seen it.